Alright, we're going to go through the alternation of generations in mosses. Again, these plant life cycles are important because of what they tell us, of what they tell us about plant evolution and the changes that have occurred over half a billion years or so. Alright, what we're going to do is I'm going to draw this, and you are going to make sure that you understand it. If it would help you to draw it as I do and put it in your notes, I highly suggest you do so. I believe there is a place in your handout for you to draw this if you didn't already draw it during class. So this is a little tiny moss plant. Okay, this little guy would be about a couple of centimeters tall, maybe. Okay, he has little leaf-like structures and he has little root-like structures, but alas, they are not true leaves or roots because he doesn't have vascular tissue. So the best we can do is call them leaf-like or root-like. Okay, now what we have here is a little boy and a little girl, a little male and a little female. Yes, there are boy and girl, male and female moss. Okay, the males have little reproductive structures on the top that I am magnifying here. You would never really notice them. The male's reproductive organs upon which he will make sperm are called antheridae, or is singular. The female also has a reproductive structure, and if you magnify it, it looks kind of like a little vase, okay, like that, and at the bottom of it you would have an egg. Okay, so this is the egg, which I've just successfully covered up. This is her reproductive structure that we call an archegonium, and if anybody asked you that, we ought to just smack them because they shouldn't. It's very trivial. However, this male will create sperm, and these sperm have tails and they have to swim, and he needs to swim to get to that egg. Okay, thus these plants need to be at least near mist, moisture, dew, something that is going to linger and allow the sperm, moss grow pretty close together, so we've got to be moist just to let that sperm swim from the male to the female. Now, if you will recall, sex cells are called gametes. So here is the sperm, the swimming sperm. He is a gamete, and your egg is also a gamete. If you will recall, sperm are haploid. They are haploid cells, haploid, which means they have one set of genetic material, one set of chromosomes. The egg is also haploid. She has one set of chromosomes. So do your egg and sperm. Okay? Now, because these plants are making gametes, sex cells, we call them the gametophyte generation. Each of these is a gametophyte. We have the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte. All it means is gamete plant, gametophyte. Okay? So the gamete plants are producing gametes, and if we take the life cycle to the next step, I'm going to blow up, magnify the female reproductive structure, the archegonium, and we're going to look down inside that. Okay? And we are going to see that there is the egg that Mr. Sperm was looking for. Well, Mr. Sperm is going to swim down into the female reproductive structure and fertilize that egg. So what we have in this image is fertilization. Okay? This is very much like what we've learned about with animals. Okay? So fertilization. Now, what this means, if we have had a haploid sperm meet a haploid egg, and that's going to give us a diploid Anybody remember what the name of the cell created from the union of sperm and egg is? One word, zygote. So we have a diploid zygote that is going to be created from the union of this sperm with that egg. Okay? Why is it diploid? It has one set from mom, one set of chromosomes from dad, two sets, diploid. Di means two. So, like any good baby, just like you did, for that matter, this zygote will begin to grow. And it will do so by the type of cell division that allowed you to grow, and that is mitosis. In mitosis, we're just going to create many cells that are pretty much like each other, many cells cloning each other, and we're going to grow this organism. So in mitosis, we have this zygote, but he's not going to stay a zygote. He's going to grow. He is going to grow into the next body form, the next generation of moss. And that is going to be looking like this. So here is our little zygote growing, and he's going to end up looking something like that. Okay? This organism is the grown offspring, and he is called a sporophyte. And I'm wondering if you can guess why. The gamete plants were called gametophytes because they made gametes. The sporophyte plant is called sporophyte because he makes spores. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. Now, this sporophyte little guy came from a single diploid cell that just copied itself over and over and over again. So, since that is true, the sporophyte is also made of diploid tissue. He is a diploid organism, just like you are. Union of sperm and egg, zygote, you grew into you, you're a diploid organism. So is the sporophyte. Okay? Now, I do hope you will notice that I colored him brown. I think it looks black, but it was supposed to be brown. Anyway, he's brown because he cannot do photosynthesis, which means he is dependent, completely dependent on the female for survival. She's the one doing photosynthesis, she's the one making the food, and he is living off of her. Okay? Now, our next stage is that something is going to happen within this region of the sporophyte up here. This region of the sporophyte, where it is enlarged right here, okay, is called the spore capsule. Now, I need to give you a little heads up. This is going to create spores. I need you to understand that a spore is a single haploid cell. Okay, it is a single haploid cell. But it does not need to be fertilized like this egg did. It needed to be fertilized. It does not. It can start growing without fertilization. Okay? So, it is, though, a haploid cell. When a diploid structure makes haploid cells, then a particular type of cell division has to occur, and that's meiosis. Meiosis is cell division that cuts chromosome number in half. So, if we're going to make haploid spores, we have to do meiosis inside of that spore capsule. Alright? And we do meiosis inside that spore capsule. So, what we're going to get is, actually, let me not change my pen color so quick. Okay? This spore capsule, I'm going to blow this up for a minute, is going to, when it is finished doing meiosis and when it is mature, it's going to pop open. A little cap will pop off, and what we are going to get are a bunch of spores being released into the air and the surrounding environment. These are spores. Okay, and I've already told you they're haploid, and we made them by meiosis, just like you would make a sex cell, but they're not sex cells. They don't have to undergo fertilization. Now, if we are lucky, those spores will land somewhere suitable. There's a couple of spores that landed somewhere. They'll land somewhere moist and suitable for growth, but distributed at least a little ways away from the original parents. And if they do, they will grow into new gametophytes and start the cycle all over again. All right, that is the moss life cycle. You ought to understand that, because all plant life cycles basically go through this pattern. It's not exactly like this. There are modifications made, but basically there's this alternating of life forms that we see, of body forms in all plants. All right, so let's go through your notes real quick. Gametophytes are the haploid plants. They have separate sexes. Male makes sperm, which is haploid. Female makes egg, which is haploid. Okay? Just like in us. Okay? That's the first part of your life cycle notes. Now, the sperm is going to swim to the egg, and they are going to unite, and we're going to call that fertilization, as we always have. It occurs in the female, just like it does in most animals, and a zygote forms, and that zygote is diploid. It has two sets of chromosomes, one from mom, one from dad. Okay? Now, don't forget that you can pause this if I'm going too fast. The zygote will then undergo mitosis and grow into the sporophyte generation. That sporophyte tissue is diploid because it is made from that zygote, and it grows out of the female and is completely dependent on her. So in this case, the dominant form in this life cycle is the gametophyte. She is dominant. The gametophyte is the dominant form. She's what's feeding the sporophyte. The sporophyte is totally dependent. So the sporophyte is dependent on her. He can't do photosynthesis and so on. Okay? Now, meiosis happens in that spore capsule. Spores are made, and those spores are haploid. The definition of a spore is a useful thing. It can grow, even though it's only haploid, it can grow without being fertilized. And when the spores are released, if they land in a good place, they will grow into new gametophytes. New gametophytes, and the cycle repeats. Okay, the cycle begins again. Alrighty. You don't need this diagram because we did our own. So that's the life cycle of the mosses. I'm going to stop here, take a break, keep going, and now we are going to focus on the other major branches of plant evolution. Okay? Thanks for watching.